I know what you're thinking. What you're seeing couldn't possibly be real. But it is. This is the Akai Force with a tilted screen. This will be the first of several Akai Force hardware mod videos that I do. This is going to be the original disassembly video that I recorded back in December, but after a number of obstacles, a bout with COVID that my family went through, and a current move to California, which is a long story, finally has come to pass. I want to say that I appreciate everybody who's been patient waiting. I know it's been a while now, but it's finally here. The Akai Force Disassembly. So to begin with, you're going to want to have an Akai Force. Who would have thought? If you can't tell, I'm recording this as a voiceover after the fact because I rambled and rambled to no end, and it was a very long video, so I'm speeding it up. All right, there's 4 screws on the back that hold the little feeties to the device, so you want to take those off. In hindsight, I don't remember for sure if you actually need to take those off to take it apart, but it doesn't hurt. And then there's all these screws, and these are all Phillips, pretty standard Phillips size. I think it's like 6 or 5 or something like that. But then there's these little guys that are in the middle. There's 4 of them. I don't remember if I do those next or the... It's probably me pointing. Yep, talkie. Okay, so actually I did the hard drive first. Okay, we'll get to that. So if you haven't before taken out or installed a hard drive in one of these, there's really not much to it. But this, you require a certain size hexagonal screwdriver. Best bet I can tell you is to get a set of them and a set of really small ones and try the different ones until you get the right one. Anyway, once you've done that, you have to take out all of these guys. You've got your TRS bolts, nuts and bolts. Yeah, I was getting mixed up. Anyway, you got all these screws here that you got to get. Those are all Phillips. Blah, blah, blah. Here's another one. Okay. Looks about right. Okay. I had some trouble with it after that for a few minutes. You do got to kind of nudge it a little bit and kind of work it to get it loose before it finally comes out. In fact, it may even feel like you're pulling on something you shouldn't be, but that's because it's got to kind of come up and out to the side at the same time. But that's normal. Just make sure that you have all the screws from the top, the bolts, whatever you call them, the nuts, and of course all the screws from the back, because you're not going to be able to get it without that. Anyway, that is the SD card that contains all of the onboard songs and all that jazz, content, etc. So that's the main board that I just pointed at. That board right there does pretty much all the main stuff as far as the brain of the device goes. These screws that I'm taking out now are for a plate that goes over the pads. And of course you can see all these wires. There's more screws, which I'm getting here. Up at the top left, while other dream is taking the screws out, might as well blab a bit. That top board to the left is the sound card, if you couldn't tell from all the sound devices connected to it at the top there. Of course, if you couldn't already tell, there's the loose SATA cable hanging that usually goes through the little hole in the compartment back there. This little board, I want to say, was the SD card reader. Oh yeah, yep, SD card reader and the headphone extension. And of course the headphone volume and all that jazz. Back to getting to the pads. If you're watching this video to do something to mod essentially the screen like I have, or to mod something, you know, with the main board, like maybe like some kind of memory mod or something, which I'm hoping to get to at some point, you will not need to take out the pads to get to that. Personally, I needed to clean my pads anyway, the board for my pads, which was a big part of why which was a big extra push anyway for me to go ahead and take it apart. I had already wanted to anyway. And honestly, when I did this, I didn't expect that I would be able to find a way to mod the screen so that it could be tilted, but sometimes things happen when you don't expect them. All right, so then you have to take these off, the caps anyway, and then if you got these little nuts here that you got to take off, if they're bolts and I'm saying nuts, yeah, I'm dyslexic. I get things mixed up all the time. Anything that's really similar in pairs of two or sets of two or relative to each other like that. But anyway, enough about that. Take all those little guys out. Yeah, and if I haven't already said this, yeah, definitely make sure you have a few hours to work on this, because this is not a quick and easy thing. I am a technician who has been working with computer and other device hardware for close to 20 years now. So I have a lot of experience that went into making this exploration to begin with. In fact, I want to say the first multi-track recorder I took apart and fixed was around 2006, 2007. I actually used to buy them off of eBay broken and fix them, you know, repair them and sell them. Anyway, so you got to take that little board out, which is obviously the screen board, because it's in the way of the pad board. So if you ever need to take the pads out, you know, to clean them as I did, that will have to come out first. That's another little board that connects there. Pretty sure it's also in the way. I'll try not to blab through all of this, but at the same time, it's really quiet when I don't, so what you gonna do? Of course, I may edit it. I may edit the fuck out of this, so, you know, whatevs. Alright, so 8 million screws later, and we might just get there. 8 million in 1, 8 million in 2, 8 million in 36, 8,572,000, 8,040,386. Okay, there we go. Bloop cables, bloop cable. Maybe that wasn't a separate board. I could have swore it was. Might have been part of that board. Forgive me if it was. Anyway, so there's the little pads from the inside. It's like a big pad sheet thing. I don't know that I took those out on the video, but they come out pretty easily. A little bit of a pain to put back, but you get the idea. Yeah, that's a board. I have no clue what it does. It's a board, though. Has a lot of transistors or whatever on it. Here we get to the main board disassembly, which of course you've got to disconnect everything from it, which means including the audio board. Or maybe I started with the audio board. Nonetheless, taking screws out, doing something. Yep, audio board first. Oh, it's connected there. Oh, you're going to have to take the other one out. Yep, doing that. Yeah, here we go. Yep, there's that. More screws, all the screws, so many screws. All right, here's the main board and the audio board, and looks like there's still something in the way. Yeah, there's a little guy. These things feel stiff, but as long as you pull them as close to the plastic that connects the plastic connector or whatever, it should be fine. Just be careful, but you know, if it gives you some resistance, that doesn't mean it's going to break. Those thin ribbon cables are another story, though. They slip out of there with usually with a little plastic connector that closes down on them. So you just pull it up and then slide them out. Be very careful with those, though, because they are very sensitive. And blabbing here about the fact that that's the CPU underneath that silver guy, which is a heatsink. Here's the cables. Actually, those are the cables that connect to the screen on the outside. And that little board that one of them connects to there, that tiny little board that's still hanging out there, that right there was the ribbon cable that goes directly to it. I'm pretty sure that right there, that guy there is the touchscreen board. Anyway, so that little board and those two cables that plug into it, or three cables, because there's another little tiny ribbon cable there. Those are actually what made it possible to move the screen, but we'll get to that later on. All right, so this little board is, I believe it's for the, yeah, it's for the buttons, for the play and all those little buttons. Maybe I did take that out. Huh. Well, tried to put that back in, though, so. Yeah, blah-bitty-blue-bitty blah. Yeah, you know what, screw it. Let's just take it out anyway, huh? Yeah, there we go. All right, so, and then those guys, the launch buttons and the other buttons on the other side. So there's those. Looks like a little plastic Akai Force skeleton. All right, so there's that board I was talking about. Yeah, there's a nut there that you have to take off for the master volume. And I think there was one for the big scroll wheel. And of course there's the plastic guy for the slider or whatever you call that dude. The like DJ slider guy. Yeah, DJ slider guy. Hey, that sounds like it could be an actual DJ's name. I'm DJ slider guy. All right, so yeah, here's this guy. It's coming out. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's for the buttons. You can see where the buttons were there before. And then we got this little guy. Oh, this guy was a bitch. This guy was an absolute asshole. So each one of those little guys has to be disconnected. I found that out after messing with it enough. Because they connect through the board into the little screens below. So it's a real pain to put those back, actually, too. And that's for the little screens that tell you, you know, what your knobs and various, you know, the little bitty screens with the Q links or whatever. All right, so more screws that hold the little panel of the screens there. There they are. See the little screens, and there's the underneath where they plug in. There's that board, which the top one there is the CV and stuff. You know, the CV and gate and all the jazz. Yep, see? CV, gate. And then this guy is the DJ slider guy board. You know, and the big giant turning knob. I am all about the technical terms, let me tell you. All right, so, and then of course you've got the rubbery button things. I don't remember if I took those out or not, but we'll see. I'm not going to guess this time. Oh, apparently I took them out and then skipped that part. So they just come out like the other one. It's real easy. These screws hold the screen in, if you couldn't tell. Yep, and it does not want to come out. Once you get the screws out, it'll feel like there's still something there. Well, there's not. It's just, it's kind of glued, I think, like a light glue. So be really careful when you take it out of there. I had to kind of push from the back and budge with it, and I used a screwdriver, and I don't remember if I want to say that you actually want to be a little more careful with it than that. I want to say I had some trouble with the screwdriver that I almost caused some problems for myself, but I could be wrong. It's not easy to get out. I'll just put it that way. You do got to kind of wedge it. Basically, it took me like 4 hours. No, I'm just kidding. It's starting to come now. Anyway, so yep, that's how it comes out. And I'm going to blab about the different parts here. I think I show some of them up close. As you can see, that's the back of the screen. There's the skeleton. He's out of the way. Now we're going to look at the board. This is, oh yeah, this is where I take apart the heatsink. I'm not take it apart, but take it off the main board. Like I said, that's the main board. That is they call it main for a reason, because it's essentially the brain. There's the CPU. That's heatsink, or what's it called? Thermal paste is what it's called. That's what I was showing you with my little guy there, is that thermal paste you can put on. That helps the, yeah, it's a little chip. The board, that board is actually more that it's got the memory, which I was just pointing out there, the little chips. The chip that has the gray on it, that's the heatsink, the thermal paste I was talking about for the heatsink. That essentially helps it to cool it better. Anyway, it's a little chip that's got all the stuff on there. All right, so here's a close-up of the chip that contains the CPU and the 4 gigs of RAM. I'm sorry, I'm kidding, there's only 2 gigs of RAM, but there are 4 chips, each one with 512 gigs of RAM, assumedly. I'm assuming. Anyway, like I said, it's almost like a little chip that you pop in, like a RAM chip on a desktop computer, but it contains all of it together. I have found 4 gig models of these little chips. They could be soldered on there. Would they work? That's the question. One I hope to try and answer in a future video on modding the Force. So this is my solution for tilting the screen. As you can see, I've put a little hinge here. If somebody were to take what I've done and 3D print something that could be a cover and a movable hinge, this could be very useful for them. This could be very useful for all of us who have a Force. Remember the little board I told you about? That's it right there, and the various cables that connect to it. I have essentially taped it with a double-sided tape to the back of the screen so that it doesn't go anywhere. I've done the same with the hinge. It's like a industrial strength double-sided tape, essentially, like a jelly tape almost. Anyway, so it can move, but as you can see, it doesn't really stay where you want it. So I got, of all things, a bracket, and the bracket holds it in place. And as you'll see here in a minute, it actually holds it in place pretty well. I mean, you can see it from here. Let's load up a project. Hopefully one that doesn't take 4 hours. So here we go. Yeah, obviously, whatever, I can tap. I'm tapping it pretty hard. Somebody in a Facebook group looked like it couldn't, they said they beat on their screen. Well, here I am beating on it, and that's holding it pretty good. But obviously, then when you go to travel with it, this thing. So what I usually do is tuck it under here like this when I put it into my case. Put that down. Obviously I turn it off because I'd be stupid not to, considering I have to unplug it and we can get power anyway, because I have not yet sorted out how to make this thing run on a rechargeable battery. But that too will be in a future video, so long as I don't blow it up. So that's it. That's the end of this video on how to disassemble the Force. You might have noticed that it's missing the reassembly. Well, that'll be the next video. Unfortunately, when I put it back together, I wanted to use it, and I've been using it since. So it's been hard to make time where I'm not either working, doing stuff around the house, or playing with my Akai Force to actually go through, take it apart again, and show how I put it back together. So that one will be coming much sooner than this one did from the last video that referenced it. Anyway, I'm Dream. This is the Dream Static Music channel. If you haven't already seen my video on software modding the Akai Force, definitely check it out. And do join the Akai Force Warranty Voiders Facebook group, where we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and where I originally shared pics and video of this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Ask any questions you have, and I will try to answer them as quickly as I can. No guarantees. As I said, I'm in the middle of moving to California, new job, a lot of stuff. Still looking for a house, living in a hotel at the moment if you haven't noticed. So things are complex, but definitely go ahead and ask a question. I will get to it as soon as I can. All right, thanks for watching, and do please subscribe if you haven't already, and please click like on this video. Thanks. Bye.